supposed to start at 8 o'clock.
And we're off. All right. So, episode 3, guys, like something we wanted to bring you and been waiting to talk about is just ultimately like our purpose and why we're here. And so, for us, a big thing as we get this thing started is just like laying the groundwork and the foundation for you guys to really understand who we are. That's what you got in episode 1 with me. That's what you got in episode 2 with Mitch. And then now in episode 3, it's like, we really just want to talk about why we're here and our purpose. And ultimately, like, I think there's no better guy than this guy that I'm sitting here talking to right now than to kind of start us off, Mitch. So, like, when you think about just where this has now come together for us, long relationship and an incredible relationship at that. And we never planned to do this. This was not, an original intention. And I'm coach, you're player. Then we become brothers and friends. And now we're here. So when you think of, what the Locked In Athlete Pod is designed for and like what we're trying to do, like, what to you unfiltered is kind of what this is all about.
Yeah, I think just what makes us so similar is our passion to serve. And I know we're both in roles as starting quarterbacks and captains of our teams, that was our main job, was to serve our teammates and just our program the best way we could. And I think, at least speaking for myself, being outside of football, you kind of lose that sense of serving and you miss it. And that's kind of what we want to do here. And just both being guys who have been through it, both being guys who have, not me specifically, because I had you help me get through all this stuff, but a guy like you who felt alone at times, just being the voice of reason and being a light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of these kids who go through the struggles of playing quarterback, and just kind of being the help and the support system that they may not have.
And something for us that's really cool is like we're a decade apart. So it's like, I finished playing ball in 2013. Like you finished this year, and we're not saying it's all the way finished, but we're but we're there. We're sitting on it, right? And so we're a decade apart. And like, so what's cool is that like I have a feel for, let's call it the older, guys, and then you got a feel for the younger guys. So just through your vantage point, like, what is the need for these young quarterbacks? You, with QB Science and Locked In, like you've been able to talk to a lot of guys. You've had relationships with a lot of young quarterbacks anyway, as you did serve. Like, what do you feel through your vantage point is the biggest need? Like, what is the thing that these guys need the most right now?
I think just a sense of, justification for their feelings. I get a lot of DMs all the time about kids being anxious and nervous, or being in a quarterback battle and not really knowing how to deal with it. And I think you see all these guys on Instagram and Twitter. You see, Patrick Mahomes and Burrow and Josh Allen, all these guys who seem so confident and have had so much success both in college and in the league. And you think life is all sunshine and rainbows, but these guys deal with the same stuff we deal with. And I think it creates a false narrative for these younger guys that they think quarterbacks all fun and it's all easy. And they think that these guys don't go through the struggles. So when they go through a struggle, I feel like, based on the DMs I get, they feel as if they're weird or soft or not in the majority, but in reality they are. And I get tens of, 25, 50 DMs a day about kids who are struggling with performance anxiety, dealing with a quarterback battle, and just kind of providing the insight that this is very normal. And we are the voice of reason for that, because we've been through the same thing. But you and I have been through everything you can imagine in the journey of quarterbacks. So that's what I think the kids these days, and when I say kids, I mean college, high school, middle school, and hopefully we've had some NFL guys come and work with us, but it's really everybody.
100%. I mean, and to kind of go back to the start where I started with Mitch, is like, and talk about, the reasons that I think like we're here and what we need to do. Is like, service is absolutely at the foundation of all of it. I mean, one of the needs of the human spirit is ultimately like love and growth and contributing beyond ourselves. And, that's something that we need selfishly in our own lives, but like, what an incredible opportunity to, ultimately utilize all the learnings as a coach and player for me, and now as a young coach for Mitch, but a player for Mitch, to come feed and enrich you guys. And through my perspective, like what that really is just providing a lot of truth behind the things that are out there in terms of narratives that we build in our head about what something is or what we're being asked to do, and kind of giving you the other perspective on the other side of it so that you guys can navigate that more seamlessly. And we're talking about things like recruiting, for instance, is like, like recruiting's a big one where it's just like all of you guys are in this arms race to get MVPs at camps and attend as many camps as possible, because going to camps means you're going to be recruited. And it's like, none of that is even true. Like, none of that is even true. And just restoring truth in an element like that. I think something else that's we're going to dive into in great detail, but is like, you look around at the best quarterbacks in the world and they play free. Like, that's in college and the NFL. Like, you'll see a looseness about them, a creativity about them, a way that they play, and a confidence in themselves that much of the way that this position is coached doesn't allow you to tap into. So it's this very, very wild paradox where, like, your coach is telling you that they want you to be the robot and play that way and do it the way that they say. And it's like, guys, we're going to do the things the way that our coaches want us to do them. Like, there's no part of defiance here. But then again, like, at the same time, they want Caleb Williams and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and these guys that break rules on almost every snap. So I think a big thing for me is like just to bring truth to you guys, to use our experience and what we've been through to ultimately help you guys. And like, Mitch, through your experiences, what do you see that these guys are struggling with the most? And so you talked a little bit about like how we all feel performance anxiety. We all have these things within ourselves that we're questioning as we go through the quarterback journey. But now you've had a lot of experience talking to these guys, and you played with a bunch of guys during your career. What is it to you that you see as the thing that they need the most, or that would help them the most at their age right now?
Yeah, and I can speak for myself because I know this is a common thing, is just the confidence to play loose. Like you said, there at times there's the way the quarterback position is coached is, be the robot and follow the rules. And I think the best quarterbacks are guys who are also coached by coordinators and position coaches who allow them to play free. And
Right.
you look at Andy Reid. I mean, he's telling Patrick Mahomes to throw a behind the back pass in the game. I mean, that just gives a guy complete freedom to do it. And if he messes up, well, he had the permission to do it.
Right.
And I think to sum it all up, really, is what I struggle with too, is instead of seeking permission to play free, giving yourself permission to play free. And like Caleb Williams, for example, Lincoln Riley let him play free, but now he's with the Bears. First pick, tons of pressure to perform like an NFL quarterback. God doesn't give a shit, dude. He's just himself. He's given himself permission to play free. And I struggle with that for sure. I'm still working on it. Because physically it's there. It's just the permission and giving yourself the ability to do it. The permission to do it. As I see a lot of kids struggle with that. And I've seen myself struggle with it.
100%. Like, when you think about the resistance that you or I face, for instance, as we discuss these things, like, I think a big reason why there's some resistance to us, or a lack of understanding with us, is because we're talking about playing loose and we're talking about playing free and all of these things. And like, a lot of people just don't have the depth of perspective to fully understand like what it means when we say playing free, and like what goes into that process. Because the last thing we're talking about is not prioritizing and emphasizing fundamentals to the extent that we earn the mastery and the ability to now trust ourselves to play loose. So like, as a guy just coming out of the fire and still halfway in the fire, like, to you, when you talk about a quarterback playing loose, and like, that's part of what we're here for, is to loosen up the way that we perceive our tasks physically, mentally, and spiritually. And there's different processes for all three of those worlds. But to you, like, what is the process, or what do you have to do to earn the right to play free or to play loose? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. And when we say playing free and loose, it's not throwing the ball into triple coverage and just praying for good luck. But I mean, and then I contradict myself. You think about a guy that played loose. You watch Brett Favre. That guy did that all the time. But he was loved for it and he was hated for it. And I'm not saying to that extent, but I think to kind of earn that respect is you have to have some balls and just go out there and do it. and earn it in the sense of you kind of prove whoever the naysayers are wrong that you are able to do those kind of things and do it responsibly. Obviously, we have a job as a quarterback to protect the program with the football, and I'm not saying be reckless by any means, but I remember you told me an example when you were playing at Wyoming and you were a freshman and it was like 4th and 5 and you're like, oh, you called a pass play and you're like, oh, dude, I'm just going to take off and run for a first down. And you got it. But then when you got to Vanderbilt, it's a little bit different of a thought process because there's more pressure. You're in the SEC. It's like, let me go through my reads, and if I get there, but just trusting your instincts and having the confidence to do that, I think, comes from ripping the Band-Aid off and just doing it, and then getting more and more freedom from your coaches. And we'll talk about this as we go on, but having a coach that supports that, and that's kind of what we want to bring light to. Man, that can elevate a person's game tenfold. But that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
For sure. I mean, I love that. I've also said many times that that's the irony or the fascinating part about what I actually believe the advantage of being a 4 or 5 star is that when you get to that campus because of the way you've been recruited, they typically give you permission to play the way that you want to play just because of the way that you've been recruited. I think what's beautiful is as Mitch gives you that answer, that's a very player-centric answer, and it's a great answer, but it's a very player-centric answer. Yeah. Let me give you the coach's centric answer, which to me is ultimately in order to trust thyself out there in the arena, in front of everybody, with your coaches all over you and with fans all watching and everything going on, that ultimately is earned in the dark. Yeah. And that earning it in the dark is with high attention to detail, high attention to cultivating the best knowledge that you possibly can to know what you need to do to the full extent at which you need to, and then ultimately practicing that so many times that then you can go play loose. So there's a lot of things that Patrick Mahomes does just in terms of neuroplasticity and what Bob Stroop has done with him and him being a multi-sport athlete. And a lot of those things are very natural to him. Mm-hmm. And that's why he's one of the tougher examples to actually break down. But if you don't think that Patrick Mahomes knew how to take a disciplined 3-step drop at some point in his life, you don't get it. So exactly. You earned the right to get there. And so that's why as coaches for us, right? We get criticized by all these people who are these locked in guys. I mean, they just look like they don't give a shit. They just look like they're completely relaxed and just spinning. It's right, because they had my foot up their ass for about 6 or 7 months. And they got to the point where they were this isn't fucking hard. This isn't hard what I'm being asked to do. And that's where you earn that trust. And we talk about levels of mastery, I think that that's something just for young guys that I really want you guys to understand. And, we have gone a little bit off. We're talking about our purpose and our mission and why we're here. But this is a big part of that is humanizing ultimately the quarterback position, like Mitch talked about, to understand that we all go through all these questions. We all go through all these things. This is all normal. Then we talk about actually what this position looks like in today's world. And we talk about the evolution of the quarterback position, which is coming in our next episode here, okay? And then you look at that and you go, okay, well, I want to play like Lamar. I want to play like Aaron Rodgers. I want to play like Patrick Mahomes. But it's you guys got to remember where those guys started. So, Mitch, I think a great place that you can kind of pick that ball up and run with it is for you, and you've been very honest about how, I don't even know if you've played to the full extent of looseness that it is you seek to play with. But that said, dude, I watched you against Vandy in a couple other games last year. You were slinging that thing. You were doing your thing. So talk about just earning the right to be able to just play free and to play loose and what that looks like for you.
Yeah. And when we say this, to me, it's a combination of, obviously, listen to your coaches, man. They're a coach for a reason. They have football knowledge. They're smart. And what I mean is it's 90% of the time you're doing exactly what your coach asks you to do. 95% of the time. But it's the 5% of those plays where you just feel something and you trust your instincts and you trust your gut and you just go with that. And you kind of throw everything else out the window. And typically those plays are the ones that are remembered because you're you're free. You're in your flow state and you're just running around making a play, and it tends to be a highlight. And the way to earn that is, I guess, really just like Oz said, is earning that in the dark. It's not something that you just pick up and do. It comes from training it physically, mentally, thinking about it, and being responsible with it. It's not, you're not going to get there with complete defiance. You have to earn the trust of your coaches and your teammates, obviously. And we're not saying to go against your coaches in any way, but it's having a good balance of trust in the system, but also trust in yourself. And I think it always comes back to a confidence thing, just a belief in yourself and belief in your ability. And I know that's something I struggle with. And just when I got to college, I wanted to be the starter so bad eventually. And I listened so thoroughly to everything my coaches said, and they were great coaches. But I was so ingrained that I kind of forgot how to trust my instinct. And there were times where my instinct, could have taken over and maybe helped me out on a play or two and throughout a practice or a game. And, I almost forgot how to tap into that because I kind of became a robot. And it's not my coach's fault. They are great coaches, and they're doing everything they can to set me up for success. But I just kind of lost my way in the sense of having my own creativity and losing my own art and what made me on the football field. And I think the biggest blessing I had in my life, sorry to go on a tangent here, but I got to play for my dad in high school. And, man, he let me do whatever the hell I want. We would install a play, and he would give me a read, but it was like, hey, dude, just go play. And every single play, dude, every single play, I followed the rules on 10 plays out of 80 a game. But we were just letting it rip. I was running around, making throws, running and scrambling and stuff, and that's just because I had the permission to do so. And kind of those chains and those shackles weren't really on me. And I think that's just, I tell kids all the time, just when I say stay true to yourself, I mean that as well physically on the field and staying true to the art that made you as a quarterback.
Well, and when he says art, like, it's such an important word. Because art ultimately at the end of the day is self-expression. Like, if you draw a painting of somebody else's painting, that's not art. Like, art is created organically and authentically by that person or that creator. So when we talk about being an artist, which, many of us would say Patrick Mahomes and these guys are artists with the football. Steph Curry is artist with the basketball. Like, ultimately that's their own self-expression. So that's part of the resistance that Mitch and I talk about to this one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter model of the way that the factory line kind of churns out quarterbacks these days. Is it's like, how the hell are we coaching some guy who's 6'5" with enormously long limbs that is still growing into his body, that is gangly and not all that coordinated, the same way that we would coach Kyler Murray, who's 5'10", and his body moves as one already. Like, it's ridiculous. And that ultimately takes us once again away from that self-expression because we're being told to do it like in one way. Okay. And so these tangents and the things that we ultimately start like flow with and go to is like, we started this with why we're here and what our mission is. Well, let me bow tie this thing or, complete the circle here is like, a lot of episodes are going to go like this where we run around because that's ultimately us just trusting where we feel the conversation has to go. But as we party hat, why we're here and what we want to do. To me, it's about building community. To me, it's about humanizing the position. To me, it's about bringing the truth to you guys so that you guys don't fall under the illusion of pressure of a mythical world that doesn't exist. Like, that it's actually real to you. And real quarterbacks and real athletes talking about real experiences, I think, can debunk a lot of those things for you. So for us, it's like, as we talk about all these things, once again, you guys jumping in the comments, you guys jumping into our DMs, you guys becoming a part of our community, because I want this to be for coaches. I want this to be for players. I want this to be for dads of quarterbacks and athletes across the country. I want this to expand to the level where everybody gets to restore truth with each other. And that's, something that I talked about in the first episode. It's like, I don't mind taking arrows, man. I don't mind taking arrows. But the more of us that get to know each other, get to truly love each other, and bring that community together, now it's not about anybody taking arrows. It's about shifting the narrative into a place where these become real human conversations and ultimately are just what, James Franklin or Chris Peterson like gave me or my brother in college, which is real conversations. And you're not afforded to get those everywhere. And so bringing these to you guys, I think, is massively important. So Mitch, with that, you have anything else as we conclude this episode and just kind of on your front?
Man, we're here to help. Like I said, we're here to help. We love this stuff, and we love being able to serve and just be the voice that we needed and be the people we needed. So feel free to reach out, DM us, comment under this, anything, man. We're here to help.
Here to help.